Creative Youth Ministry, a congregation that is going and growing with its young folks at a time that so many teenagers are drifting away from the church. How does that happen? How does it work? We're going to have someone here and some of the young people to tell us. So stay with us on Austin Faith Dialogue.
Austin Faith Dialogue, at the crossroads of religion and life. A series highlighting the cultural and social interactions between the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KXAN. Join us now in Austin Faith Dialogue.
Hello, I'm Richard Thompson, on behalf of Austin Area Interreligious Ministries, bidding you welcome to this edition of the show. And our topic is Creative Youth Ministries. This is a rare experience in so many of the churches today, but there is one church in East Austin, a historically significant church that's making history of its own with this work with youth. This is Our Lady of Guadalupe, and we have with us the youth minister from that church who's going to tell us a bit about how it's done, and we welcome you back to the show, Juan Valadez.
Thank you.
And we're glad that you brought a couple of your young folks with us. We have Veronica Mata and Cindy Mondragon. And we'd like to say that we had you last, just before Christmas, with the La Posada.
Right.
That was the procession between your congregation and the
Metropolitan AME.
The church that's in your neighbor.
Right.
And that there was a video project that was going on that your young people were involved in that is now soon to open with the Austin Children's Museum.
Correct.
Now, all of that put together spells creativity. And let's start with you, and then we're going to have your youth members here to talk a little bit more about it as well.
Okay.
What do you do with your young folks?
Well, one of the things that's really interesting about our young people is that many times they don't have a venue for expressing themselves, and a lot of our young people prefer to not get in front of a group and start talking. That's not their forte at the time, and a lot of our kids are very shy, and a lot of times what happens is they become, and it creates kind of low self-esteem. So one of the things that has really what we've done here with this particular project is we used video as a vehicle for relationship building between adults, young people, and actually elderly people. So it was it was kind of intergenerational, but it was also intercultural, because what we did is we worked with an African American church. Our church was predominantly Latino. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the programs that we've tried. The other thing is that we've developed programs based on what the kids themselves, kind of their interests, and me as a youth minister kind of coordinate how we connect faith to those kinds of programs.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'd like to ask you, Veronica, about your role in this. This is a video project in which you interviewed some older people in the area. Mm-hmm. Is that how that works?
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about your role, what you did in regard to that.
Well, my role was basically, I was more of a leader since I was the oldest of the group. Mm-hmm. And I had dropped out of it, but now I'm back in it. So it's helping me a lot. But what we do is that we interview the elders, and we learn more history about the church and about our neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And about how we've actually grown up in certain generations.
I see. So it's really an intergenerational thing. The mm-hmm. people you interviewed have been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. Now, did you do interviewing,
yeah.
Cindy? Who are some of the folks that you interviewed?
Tom Hatchicks, Maria Gutierrez, and Richard, I forgot his last name.
But there are several of these older folks in the community, mm-hmm. and we're going to be seeing a videotape of that, just 2 or 3 of the interviews here to begin with, and then we're going to come back and reflect upon more of what you were saying, Juan, in terms of what this means both to the young people and to the elders. So let's see what we have here.
I graduated from Anderson, me and my family, you know. And then they closed Anderson. And I think our school has won more state football championships than any other school in Austin has. They put all our trophies in storage and then put this supposed to be Anderson High School out in northwest Austin and take our colors, which was black and gold, just like this right here, and make it blue and gold. And instead of the Yellow Jackets, they make it the Trojans. Just would like a little more equality, you know what I mean?
Okay. Now, why don't you give us a little bit of a sense of who this fellow was and what he was representing?
This gentleman was one of the African Americans that was part of the people that we interviewed. Was, Bubba Stewart is what he goes by, and he was telling the story of the old Anderson High School, which was located on Rosewood, and now, you know, in the past it was moved up north. And what he was talking about how is we had this predominantly African American school moved up north, and it became a predominantly Anglo school. They changed the colors, they changed the name, and it was almost like, you know, it was kind of a kick towards the old Anderson High School, and he was just kind of telling the story of how the school district even was changing with that.
Now, this was Anderson High School up in Northwest Hills. Is that?
Yes, the one that's on Mesa Drive now.
Yes.
It used to be located on Rosewood Avenue, and Hargrave, I believe, is the street.
Okay, and that had was that moved for what reason? Why would they have done that?
Well, I'm not exactly sure what the whole reasons were, but I think a lot of it had to do with, during those times, I think it had a lot to do with the segregation. Segregation. And like I said, the school, you know, the former Anderson High School is now the Alternative Learning Center, which is almost, you know, kind of another, you know, we put East Austin again in that light of.
I see. All right. What school do you go to, Veronica?
I go to Austin High.
You're in Austin High. What about you, Cindy?
Martin.
You're in junior high still.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So your youth group ranges from what are you, like in 8th grade, and what? And you're
I'm a junior.
a junior. You got all these kids in one group?
We have, again, I was saying, we have different groups, but we work with kids between the ages of like 10 all the way to like 17.
All right.
And they're involved in different ways. But a lot of the groups do have kids between Cindy's age, which is 13, all the way to 16, 17 years of age. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is that we kind of, instead of going by age, we kind of determine, because a lot of the kids have things to offer that at 13 years of age, a lot of people wouldn't give them credit for being able to do. Cindy wouldn't, most people wouldn't look at Cindy and say, wow, she knows how to run a digital camera and do an interview. But Cindy's more than capable of doing that.
You did that?
Yeah.
If one of these camera people faints, we're going to have you go to work right away. And we'll look forward to seeing another one of these vignettes here.
When the first Guadalupe community began, it was at East 4th and Trinity Street. And then the city of Austin, the mayor, said that all wetbacks had to move out of downtown in order to put new buildings there. And the letter that was written to the people there and the pastor was, all wetbacks must move, and you need to take this building with you, the little house that they were all gathering in. So around on a Palm Sunday, in 1927, after a whole couple of weeks of the community coming and dismantling that house board by board, they took all the nails out because they didn't have anything to build with, so they had to take what they had and bring it here. So they came in a procession, and you see that little dead Jesus we have in the church building. The community had suffered, so they chose the dead Jesus, not a cross, not the Virgin Mary, but a dead Jesus to lead that procession that Sunday.
Okay, now that's a bit of history in itself, isn't it? As to how Our Lady of Guadalupe moved what was downtown out to where it is now?
Yes, it was on the corner of 5th and Guadalupe, and that was in 1907. And in the 20s, the city council asked the pastor at that time to move it. And what the interviewee was talking about, he's our deacon, Deacon Mario Renteria, and he was giving the story of how the church was moved piece by piece, board by board, nail by nail, by the community that was worshiping in that time.
Yeah, in other words, it was another example of, it was some racial kinds of things, wasn't it? That,
Yeah, the letters that were sent were pretty derogatory.
well, I would say that to know about that history, Veronica, did you learn some things about your community you didn't know before as a result of this project?
I've learned that our church has gone through, our people have actually gone through a lot lately back in those days. I've known that people, Mexicanos, have gotten slapped in their hands for speaking Spanish in their public schools.
They actually were punished for speaking their own language. You didn't know that before. Did you learn some things that you didn't know before?
Yeah. I learned that the church burned down, and like what Juan said, that the church moved.
You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah. Well, that puts it in a historical context. And these two here are, how many total? Your youth group is not confined to these two people that are here, are they?
No. We have between 25 and 40 kids work in different entities. Some of them are strictly in a youth group at the church. Some of them belong to a girls group. Some of them belong to the video project. Some of them belong to tutoring groups that we have, and they're all working in conjunction with our parish.
How many groups altogether?
I
think you said
4 or 5.
Yeah, I think you said around 5.
Yeah.
And so that they're centered around certain activities that the kids are interested in, or certain needs.
That's kind of where I think where our programs are really powerful, is that most of the programs are started because the kids have either asked for them or shown an interest in doing something different. We're starting another one with photography that Veronica has really kind of led the whole transition into trying to start a photography program.
How come?
Because I think it's real interesting. You can take pictures, like it's like building like a history behind it. You're finding a history behind the picture of it. And I was like kind of the leader, like the person in charge of it, but I couldn't do it all the time, so I had all the other people just help.
I see. To take pictures to do what again? I mean, the purpose is to learn more history, is it you were saying?
You're learning more history behind the picture when you take it.
And again, of these older adults in the community, or is this something else?
It's just the youth and some adults who help us,
I see.
help with the expenses.
Well, I think both photography and video help people with self-reflection of any age. You begin to see yourself differently as you begin to see others, and I think that's one of the values that we'll be coming back to in our second half. We're going to have to take a break here, but stay with us as we continue to explore the creative youth ministry as it's found in Our Lady of Guadalupe Church here in Austin. Welcome back to Austin Faith Dialogue, where today we are exploring a creative youth ministry here in the city as found in the Our Lady of Guadalupe Church. We have the youth director from there, Juan Valadez, with two of his young folks who are joining him here, Veronica Mata and Cindy Mondragon. Now, in the first half, we were saying one of the things that creative is you get kids using video, and that you're using it to explore the community of which they're a part, interviewing some older folks. And we've got 3 more of those to show in this half. And I think in order to make some reference to that, let's see one of these now.
There were signs on the buses that said colored. That meant, you know, and we had 3 seats in the back of the bus, the long seat all the way across and 2 in front of it. And if the bus was going to town, you sat back there, regardless to how many seats were empty up front. And if the bus was coming to East Austin, you could sit anywhere. In the stores, Scarborough's especially, you couldn't try on anything in there. You could just go in and buy the thing and come out, but you couldn't try it on. If you wanted to use the restroom, you had to go to the bus station, the Greyhound bus station. Austin was very, very prejudiced. In the sight of God, we're all the same. He's just. We are the ones that are unjust.
Okay, well, I was just going to say, every one of these has to do, it seems like, with segregation or with prejudice, or, you know, these folks, you didn't, this was not your topic as you interviewed them, was it?
No, I don't know if Cindy or Veronica want to talk about that, but no, the topics weren't about, it was more about just doing a connection between our young people and our older generation, and I think a lot of it was just kind of telling stories.
Because that's the way it was back in that time.
That's the way it was back then. And
Yeah.
I don't know if either Cindy or Veronica want to add to.
Now, I'm going to ask you all a hard question here. Is there still prejudice?
Yes.
Can you feel prejudice yourself?
Mm-hmm.
How so?
Well, people, the way they look at you, because the way you dressed or the color you are. I think my freshman year we had a lot of racial fights, like maybe few racial fights because we couldn't get along with each other.
Mm-hmm. This was in high school?
Mm-hmm.
I see. So that's where it comes out even now?
It comes mainly out of the teenagers.
I see. Okay. You have the experience of anything like that, Cindy?
No.
Well, you're in junior high, so I would suspect, though, that there's even in junior high, don't kids divide each other into kind of groups?
Yeah.
Yeah, like what are the groups in junior high these days?
Well, the ghetto people, the little intelligent ones, I don't know, the different kind.
The ghetto and the intelligent ones. Okay. You talk to your kids about coping with prejudice and with being stereotyped in one way or the other?
I think one of the things we talk about is we try to do it kind of in a positive light. On the way over, we were talking about, responding and how we respond. And one of the things we always try to find a positive way of responding. And this is kind of where this oral history comes in, is although they're hearing stories that were real negative in the past, mm-hmm. one of the things that we've been able to do is that these kids are learning something about not only doing video, but they're learning something about themselves. They're learning something about their past.
Okay.
They're learning something about the struggles that their parents or their grandparents or some of these other people that they've interviewed mm-hmm. have had. And I think it gives our young people, as it does me, it gives us something to look forward to, something to struggle for, something to struggle with. And
I'm wondering, too, if it doesn't have to do with, I've read elsewhere, too, where young people are involved in video projects, it helps them develop a sense of who they are, self-esteem, and then able to cope with whatever comes at them, in terms of whether it's stereotypes or prejudices or stresses in some other way. Let's take another look. We've got a couple more of these. I want to get them all in and continue to make some reflection on the next one.
One of my 2 sons that I had contacted AIDS, and he was sick. So I came over here to help him out through his illness, and I was here for 4 years with him before he passed away. When he came out in the paper saying his illness, everybody was supportive. This is the kind of neighborhood that I live in, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, for nothing. This is my Guadalupe.
Okay, now, when you saw this, Veronica, your eyes lit up. What? Tell us about that lady.
Well, because she was to me, she's kind of famous to me. Like, she's like my second grandmother, maybe. Oh. She's like what we call her Mama Lozano, because she was Roy Lozano's mother, who was a good ballet folklorico dancer, until he passed away a few years ago. And I'm like into folklorico dancing. I like dancing it because I like bringing out my culture.
Oh, really? Okay. So this is a national group, isn't it?
This is it's known for its real intricate dancing and really the study of ballet folklorico throughout the regions of Mexico. They do a lot of real good research. They go down and they learn new steps and they come back. And every year they have a fiesta, and it's always at the Paramount. It's really big. And this lady here that Veronica was talking about is Berta Lozano, and she lives in the neighborhood right down the street from the church. And her son started the group, and he died a few years back. And she talks about how this community was there to help her, and she wouldn't trade that for the world.
So this ballet group started in Austin, Texas.
It started here in Austin.
Wow. Okay.
There's many folklorico groups. I'm in one. I'm in a private one. It's a different between Roy Lozanos. It's called Ballet Folklorico Mexico. We learn stuff like different dances from the different countries in Mexico.
So you're in a ballet group yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm in two.
If we had more time, we could have you demonstrate that for us. And did you know who this lady was that we just saw? Had you recognized her?
Well, I seen her around the neighborhood, but I don't really know her.
Mm-hmm. Did you say you're sort of behind the camera when this project is going on? You're videotaping people like this?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And but you haven't done any interviews yet.
Yeah, I have.
Oh, you have. You've done that too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. You're on both sides of the camera that way.
Well, explain how we did the rotation.
Everybody got to interview somebody and got to do the sound and the camera.
Okay. So everybody had a turn.
Yeah.
By the way, this is going to air or to be shown at the Austin Children's Museum beginning when?
February the 13th, and it goes all the way through the end of March. But we're having an opening on the 21st of February, Wednesday the 21st of February.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be a display, and then there'll be a video shown.
So this is going to be shown throughout the day as people come in?
It's going to be shown mostly at the community nights, but the display will be up throughout the whole time.
All right. Let's take a look at, I think we've got one more here, and see what this one's about.
The main thing that we're fighting for is that sense of community that we have that's very special, that sense of belonging to a place.
And who was that?
Do you know who that was?
Mark Rogers.
That was Mark Rogers. He's a historian. He lives in the neighborhood, and right there in the 8 seconds in the short time that he talked was about the whole sense of belonging. And I think this is where this community, and this is why I think the two churches living in this, 2 blocks from each other, and why our kids were able to really work with this this Latino community, African American community, Catholic community, and Metropolitan AME were able to work so well together, is because we had a sense of belonging. And I think that's what this video really was about, is giving not only our young people but our elderly a chance to relive kind of their stories and have them carried on, but our young people being able to learn about these stories and having something to connect them with the neighborhood.
Last Sunday, at the annual meeting of the Austin Area Interreligious Ministries, I know that you had a chance to talk something about that, and that the priest from your church, Father Elliott, and the pastor from the AME church were recognized for the way in which this community building is going on between the African American and Hispanic communities. And the point that was made was that there's been tension there that needed to be bridged with this. La Posada was one way of doing that. How do you identify the tension?
Well, I think there's multiple ways of identifying, but one of the things that I think is really important is that we had 2 churches who lived parallel lives, but it was almost, there was this barrier, and part of it was this distrust between the communities, between the 2 churches, to say, hello, how are you doing? And I think when Reverend Irvin from Metropolitan AME came to Austin a couple of years ago, Father Bill Elliott went over and invited him over for dinner. and that's where it began. And these two guys didn't see, well, here's an Anglo inviting an African American to dinner. It was more of my neighbors inviting me to dinner, and just kind of started that conversation.
And that sort of got the idea
And that
going.
started got the idea of going. And as we talked, as we dialogued, we realized that these two churches lived parallel lives. They had, both churches were downtown. Both churches were told to move out, and a lot of it was in the same fashion. It happened in the same fashion, and we just never talked about it.
The AME church also was asked to leave.
Was also asked to leave. I'm not for sure exactly where they were downtown, but and they're an older church than our church.
Right. You know, one of the things in just a few minutes that we have left, I remember Elliot saying that before this La Posada and this project that the young people were involved in, he'd walk down the street, I guess walking his dog or something, and nobody said anything to him. And now he walks down the same neighborhood and people are always speaking to him. That has broken the ice with him, and I'm sure it has with others that in that community that you're in.
In between the two churches, it has, yes.
Right. And I'd like to know what difference being in the youth group has made to each of you. You've been in one of these groups that Juan is leading. Has it made a difference in your life?
Yes.
What way?
It's helped me in many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And now I know people believe in me, that I can do better in school, and I don't know.
Believing in you and
Yeah.
believing in yourself.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Cindy. And Veronica, what about you? What difference has been made in your life to be part of the youth group at Our Lady of Guadalupe Church?
Well, it's kept us out of trouble, getting picked up by the police, not doing any drugs. Mm-hmm. It's kept us out of that, and it's actually helped us go through school and have them believe in us that we can graduate and become whatever we want to be.
Mm-hmm. You see, we're just less than a minute. It's very frustrating, Juan, because we're just kind of getting into this, but just in a sentence or two, what difference is it making across the board, young people there?
I think young people are starting to recognize their own potential and living up to it, and knowing that the adults that are involved with them care enough that they will be there for them through thick and thin.
Well, you have been here for us tonight. Thank you all for being here, Juan, Veronica, Cindy. Thank you folks for being here on Austin Faith Dialogue. Be with us again next week. I'm Richard Thompson in behalf of Austin Area Interreligious Ministries, bidding you good day and peace.